Start your engines.
Well, welcome, and I hope you stay with us and enjoy this special look back over the year of 1994, where special events can be seen, where it's frustrating, exciting, and intimidating at times. So stay with us and enjoy this special program over 1994.
Nigel Mansell's 1993 IndyCar Championship with Newman-Haas was universally hailed as a unique triumph. Achieved just 12 months after clinching the Formula One world title, the celebrations were led by team owners Paul Newman and Carl Haas.
Nigel, after your championship success of 1993, what was your mood as you went into the winter testing program?
I think very buoyant, very bullish, very happy after all these years to see a red number 1 on the car. But I wouldn't say confident, but we're certainly optimistic that we'd be competitive in the new season.
Now, you put a lot of pressure on Lola to put a transverse box on the car, which Penske had been using in 1993, and in the winter testing you and the team were raving about the new car. How much better, looking back, was it than the 1993 car?
Well, it's no question that it was a second to second and a half a lap quicker on most places where we had tested. But the problem was that we didn't appreciate how far Penske's would move forward. And we arrived whereby we weren't as competitive as we thought we might be, and in fact we were a little way behind them.
1994 was billed as the most competitive season yet. Roger Penske's been around top-class motorsport for a generation and more, but for the new season he'd assembled his dream team, comprising all-time great Emerson Fittipaldi, Formula One world champion 1972 and 1974, IndyCar champion 1989. Paul Tracy, the 25-year-old Canadian, one of the hottest properties in motorsport, 5 wins in 1993. Al Unser Jr., from a famous motor racing dynasty, champion in 1990, but after a couple of lean years, plenty to prove. Other potential challengers to Nigel's title, Bobby Rahal, 3 times IndyCar champion, Honda-powered for 94. Happy again after a dismal year in Formula One, Michael Andretti, driving the Chip Ganassi Reynard. Another with real potential, Robbie Gordon, the protege of AJ Foyt, but with Derek Walker for 1994. Brazilian Raul Boesel, starting his 9th season in IndyCars, but yet to win a race. And the legendary Mario Andretti, in his last season after 31 years in IndyCars, 52 wins and 4 championships. The season began with the now traditional curtain raiser, not in the States, but in Australia. Nigel returning to the site of his debut win in IndyCar racing the year before. In qualifying it seemed as though he'd never been away, breaking the track record to claim pole position for the 2nd year running. 7/10 of a second quicker than anyone else. A spectacular start as the champion used all the track and nearly a little bit more.
I think Surface Paradise is an extraordinary circuit where you have to have a lot of commitment. You have to overcommit your car into the corners to go around the corners, and that's where Michael Andretti and the Reynard chassis, I mean, he overcommitted his car on a number of corners, and you saw it airborne 5 foot in the air, and it still didn't brake. He hit walls, he hit tyres, he pulled tyres out of the corner, and it still didn't break the car, and he went on to win. And what we did see down at Surface Paradise as well was the amazing weather change. I mean, we have seen that in Adelaide, if you remember, for a couple of years, but the weather caught everybody out, and it was a really great shame for the promoters and the race event itself, because it turned it into not a great race. A good race, but not a great race.
The touching moment for Carl Haas, a now familiar pre-race ritual. the champion ready to start the defence of his title at Surfers Paradise. Eventually underway after 2 aborted starts due to rain and minor collisions, Nigel Mansell leading from Michael Andretti with the 3 Penskes in the chasing group. But weather conditions had made the track extremely difficult and the anticipated duel between Michael and Nigel was soon suspended. A logjam of cars brought out the caution flags. Caught up in the melee, Zampedri, Bazell, Jones, Buell and Mario Andretti. The remaining runners piled into the pits for tyres and fuel. Some, like Alan Sir Jr., for a new nose cone and front wing. Michael Andretti's stop was quick enough to allow him to take over the lead. But behind the pace car, as no sooner had the race restarted than there was more trouble. Bobby Rahal suffering terminal damage as a result of another incident involving Zampedri and Bazell. Underway in earnest, this time Michael Andretti first, Emerson Fittipaldi second after a good pit stop, Nigel third, pressured by Robbie Gordon. Gordon now third, Mansell fourth, but Nigel determined to claw that place back. Gordon was harried and challenged until eventually the champion manoeuvre. A thrilling wheel-to-wheel battle on the charge down to the left-hander. And it's Nigel with the line and the speed. Emerson Fittipaldi in second place and next in Nigel's sights. Reminiscent of several exciting duels these two enjoyed in 1993, including one at Surfers Paradise. And the result this time, a repeat of last year. As the track conditions became slippery again, Robbie Gordon had a wild spin coming out of the chicane on the backstretch. He emerged unscathed, but the car was engulfed. Andretti, Mansell, Fittipaldi, the top 3 as the caution was lifted just as it began to rain again. This spin cost Nigel the chance of challenging Andretti. The car's handling not in the best of order, and he was stranded for a full lap. In the treacherous conditions, every driver inevitably hit problems. Some were more fortunate than others. Michael Andretti clouted a tyre barrier, no damage to the car, all he lost was a couple of seconds.
We need a push, come on.
The Newman-Haas team frantic but helpless to get Nigel underway. Up front, Michael Andretti ahead of Emerson, with Mario Andretti having inherited a fine third place. Back on track, Nigel Mansell carving through the field and going past Italian Teo Fabi in great style to unlap himself. But as Michael Andretti ploughed on, the organisers decided the light wouldn't hold for the full race to be completed. They announced their intention to call a halt 10 laps early. Emerson closed rapidly on the leader, but too late. In a surreal atmosphere, more like Le Mans than Surfers, Andretti was home first, the margin 1.3 seconds. Many happy returns for Michael, and a first win for Team Ganassi, a debut victory for the British-built Reynard chassis. Phoenix, always remembered as the scene of Nigel's huge crash last year. Paul Tracy took pole position for Penske, his first pole on an oval. Rookie Jacques Villeneuve was second quickest, ensuring the first ever all-Canadian front row in an IndyCar race. Nigel Mansell, third fastest. Satisfactory but disappointing after showing peerless form in testing earlier in the week at Phoenix. As usual throughout the season, Nigel didn't lack support, either in the grandstands or down in the pits. Team manager Jim McGee clocking his progress.
That's all right, we're real close. 20.51, and the pole is 20.42, so we're right there.
In practice late Saturday afternoon, Nigel was lapping the circuit once more, attempting to discover where those precious fractions of seconds could be regained. Then suddenly he was spinning and heading for the wall, collecting Jacques Villeneuve along the way. The first choice Lola would not be ready for the race. That meant preparing the spare car.
I think I can say this now because I'm not going to go on an oval again in the near foreseeable future, shall I say. I don't think you ever feel comfortable on an oval. I certainly don't. You go on an oval and you're committing yourself going into corners at 200 miles an hour. And you're going into the corners committing yourself whereby you brake very gingerly and you try and carry your speed as fast as you can around that corner. And you know if anything goes wrong, whether you have a tyre go down, you have a suspension problem, or you have a little bit of oversteer, or the car gets loose, as they say in America, you're going to have a monumental accident. So I think, no, I'd say you don't really feel comfortable.
As they come down, they look nicely aligned here. 200 miles lie ahead as the green comes out. Paul Tracy sweeps across the front. Nigel Mansell comes up into the second row. Nigel moves into second place, 3 wide as they come off of the corner.
And you can see that Villeneuve, the lack of experience, he backed right off, but Mansell was one of those who got a superb start.
Battle for 5th place as Robbie Gordon now closes on Mario Andretti. Mario, the Texaco car there. He has a red roll bar. Look at this. Nigel Mansell comes up and very quickly overhauls Paul Tracy. He has now won every race computed on a 1-mile track. Let's see if he can do it with this win here today.
Progress interrupted when Willie T. Ribbs crashed at turn 1 on lap 28 of 200. Nigel pitted under the caution flags but stalled in the pit road. That delayed him considerably, and first place became 12th. Meanwhile, the leading Penske's, Fittipaldi and Tracy, decided to stay out during the caution. And as the race resumed, they were in control, with Tracy running ahead of Fittipaldi.
So at the top of the field, Paul Tracy, followed by Emerson Fittipaldi. Al Unser Jr., the yellow has come out. We've got a car against the wall, and it looks to be...
It's a Penske.
Oh, no! Oh, my goodness, how did that happen? The yellow had been out for some time.
Jacques Villeneuve got high, coming through 3, up into the grey, and absolutely rammed into one of those stationary cars. Here's how it starts. Teo Fabi, right there, touches wheels with Matt Schuster. That is an accident all by itself. Watch Tracy. Now stop it right there. Can we stop it right there? Tracy tries to avoid it, and look, he's in the grey. Okay, if we let it run on, you'll see what happens then. Tracy is an innocent victim here. Now it's a 3-car crash. As soon as it all stops, remember the grey is the no grip area. The yellow flags are now out. The rest of the cars come around.
And next down the line, Jacques Villeneuve. Look at him go outside.
Now look at this. Now watch the impact. Stop it right there. Can we stop it right there? Villeneuve has now no grip. He's in the grey. He's got dirt on his tires from the accident. He now knows there's a huge impact coming. Watch this violent impact. That is the scariest piece I have seen in IndyCar racing for many years. It is phenomenal that Jacques Villeneuve stepped out and walked away from that Reynard.
Caution lifted. Nigel set about trying to pull back the lap lost in the pits with some audacious driving.
Look at the debris, the mess. Winds are really blowing here and blowing debris onto the racetrack. Mansell high, look at Mansell. Mansell comes low, trying to unlap himself. Plenty of traffic there. Davy Jones to the inside. Jimmy Faster sits to the high side, and Mansell is back on the lead lap.
Brilliant move, a brilliant move pulled off by Mansell, and he did it by lining up correctly and anticipating the slow traffic on the way into turn 1.
Nothing like a 3-rail billiard shot to get through traffic.
that this will be Nigel Mansell's final stop. They've got the front tires off so far. They're not expecting any changes, but we'll keep an eye up on the front. Yes, Tom Wirtz is going just very slight wing change, only a quarter of a turn. Waiting for the last bit of fuel. Nigel's on the ground. Oh boy, he doesn't kill it this time. 14.7.
Yeah, there wasn't any question he wasn't going to get that engine stalled again. Let both of the tires and out he went.
Oh, he's off the road. He's off the road. He's on the grass.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's a hard stopper.
He put himself behind the 8 ball on that first pit stop when he stalled it. Now he almost does the exact opposite.
And Andretti is in trouble. And we've got more trouble again. Debris on the track, and it's caused some other problems. All right, this is what happened to Michael Andretti. Watch, listen. Accident is ahead.
The loose wheel from Michael Andretti's car could have caused serious injury amongst the spectators. Miraculously, no one was badly hurt. But after such an incident-packed race, it was Emerson Fittipaldi who drove through it all to record the 21st victory of his IndyCar career. He finished 13 seconds ahead of Alan Jr. with Nigel third. Points at Phoenix for Nigel, erasing the memories of last year. But what an escape for Hiro Matsushita.
Of course, I was surprised, but after I get out the car, I saw my car. I thought I'm very lucky.
Very lucky indeed, because the car split in two. The engine and gearbox went one way, the chassis with you and it went the other.
Yeah, if he hit maybe this much forward, I'm gone.
Did you see him coming?
Yes.
What were you thinking?
Scary, of course.
Someone on every driver's side was looking over him that day, because you could have had 2 or 3 drivers killed at that accident. And where Jacques Villeneuve hit Hiro's car was right in the middle between the engine and the bulkhead of the car, which just split the car clean in half. 12 inches this way, it would have killed Hiro and probably would have injured very severely Jacques. And this way, 12 inches, Jacques would have lost his legs because he would have hit the engine solid. And as it happened, when the engine spun off, poor Tracy was getting out of his Penske, and the gearbox and the engine flew past his body and just missed him. So, I mean, there you have a very good example of, now that is, you call it fate, you call it luck, whatever you want to call it, but believe me, that could have been a very tragic accident whereby I think 5 or 6 cars were put out of the race by that accident, and fortunately everybody could walk away and talk about it, and that was incredible.
From Arizona to California for round 3 at Long Beach. Nigel qualified 4th on the 2-mile street circuit, the leading Lola on the grid, but the Penskes were definitely in charge. Paul Tracy with his 2nd successive pole position, but he'd yet to finish a race. 2nd quickest, Alan Jr., king of the beach after his 4 wins on the circuit. Emerson Fittipaldi, 3rd on the grid, completing the Penske domination of the qualifying sessions.
They give it the green. They give it the green. It surprises me, but they give it the green. The rest of the field struggling off of that hairpin turn as they battle down into the corner.
A Penske 1-2-3 right from the green flag, till the Tracy jinx strikes again, and he spins into a surprised Mike Groff. Emerson Fittipaldi took over the lead from Alan Jr., who'd incurred a stop-go penalty. Then Emerson stalled in the pits and handed first place back to his teammate. Emerson labouring with a gearbox problem. Little Al was flying, his closest challenger Nigel Mansell, until Michael Andretti intervened. Nigel, trying to avoid the slow-moving Fittipaldi, punted in the rear wing by Andretti. And a rear puncture, the result. Hopes of winning evaporated. In the pits, he took on enough fuel to see him through to the finish. And a typical battling display in the closing stages, without further mishap, took Nigel up to 2nd again behind Alan Jr.
Al Unser Jr. about to reassert himself as the king of the beach as he takes the Penske car across the line and picks up the twin checkered flags. Al Unser Jr. is the winner in the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. Nigel Mansell through the hairpin for the very last time. His teammate Mario Andretti will be coming to the line too for the last time here. And here is Nigel Mansell, comes toward the flag and picks up second place.
Great job, Nigel. Great job. That puts us P3 in the championship, only 2 points behind Emerson. 2 points behind the leader. Okay, great job, team. Thanks, everybody. Jim, Peter, you did a great job with the car this weekend, my friend. What we got was what we got. We milked it to the full. Thank you very much, everybody.
Incredible.
Fun and games on the podium between Nigel, Little Al and Robbie Gordon, who came third, equaling his career best finish.
Yeah, they're quite a good race at Long Beach, and we could have possibly conceivably won, but when I was lapping Michael Andretti and I was catching Emerson, Emerson had a problem with his gearbox coming out the hairpin, so I had to sort of lift a little bit. And then Michael, as he's shown so many times this year, has a problem running into people at the back, and he punctured my tyre, and then I had to go around a whole lap before I could come into the pits to get another new fresh set of tyres. And I lost that race, but I was only about 12 seconds behind Little Al. And without the punctured tyre, we probably should have won it.
Confirmation of the pits to car message, Nigel just 2 points behind the Penske pair after 3 races. Next event on the IndyCar calendar, the Indy 500 itself.
Last year you had this terrible pain that you were in preparation for the event. This year with full fitness, were you able to appreciate the magic that is Indianapolis a bit more?
Yes, I mean, I'm very grateful that I've had the opportunity to go to Indianapolis a couple of times, because now, you know, you see through all the veneer, you see through all the excitement, and you know what hard work goes behind sort of getting the job done or trying to get the job done. And I was very lucky in the race, as we all know, when we were under a caution yellow for 1 3/4 laps, that I didn't actually have my head taken off, and that my career wasn't brought to a sudden end by someone making a very, very stupid and very serious mistake.
But no mistakes by Al Unser Jr. He won the big one for the second time with a massive boost from the Mercedes stock block engine. Just a week after the Indy 500, to the 200-miler around the oval at Milwaukee, Raul Boesel qualified on pole for the second successive year, but he couldn't break the lap record he'd set 12 months before. The Penskes didn't qualify particularly well, apart from Paul Tracy, the fastest of the trio, just 0.08 of a second slower than Boesel. Jacques Villeneuve on row 2, fresh from his fine second place in the Indy 500, named Rookie of the Year there and proving some of his late father's talent has been inherited. Unlike most ovals, Milwaukee is barely banked at all, but the track surface is bumpy, a rough ride for the drivers. Race on, Nigel with a lot to do, starting from 9th.
And here we go. Paul Tracy sweeping down toward the outside, trying to get around Raul Boesel. They come off the corner side by side. Tracy forges ahead.
Well, that's one of the best contests between a Ford and Chevy engine or an Elmore engine that I ever saw, Paul.
Michael Andretti trying to make a move up through the field now. We'll stay on board with him for a second as Tracy takes over the lead from Raul Boesel. Gordon is third. Villeneuve is fourth. Back on board, Michael, as Penske cars continue to come up through the field. First it was Emerson coming around, as now Al Unser Jr. begins to challenge Michael. And Michael's not going to have much of it. But Junior's in a position off the corner.
Great racing at Milwaukee. You see this all the time, side-by-side racing.
Now here comes Robbie Gordon, Villeneuve, and Fittipaldi as they will come into the slower cars, and that will make a world of difference in how they get around.
Now Fittipaldi's going to cause Jacques Villeneuve right there on the right-hand side to go a little bit harder. You see, look at there. Whoa. He didn't either. He just blew right by him.
So Fittipaldi now up to challenge Robbie Gordon. And here comes Little Al. He'll try to dial around the outside of Villeneuve. Then he comes to the inside on the front stretch.
Here
Robbie
we go.
Gordon battles with Fittipaldi. You got a glimpse of it for a second. Here is Little Al as he comes off of 2, still trying to get Jacques, and Fittipaldi has passed Gordon. Brian Hurt is right there. No, that's Mark Smith. There comes Little Al as he gets caught behind Mark Smith. You're on board, Robbie Gordon.
Watch how wide a line Robbie Gordon takes through the turn. Whoa!
Little Al drops to the inside of Robbie, and just that quickly he has passed. The Penske car is very definitely on the move. Move for second place as here comes Fittipaldi, past Bosell, and Emerson Fittipaldi picks up second.
And Little Al is on the move.
And Penske cars 1, 2, and 3.
Having crushed the opposition, the Penskes squabbled between themselves. Fittipaldi went ahead with Tracy second, Unser third, but Unser was moving up. He went past Tracy for second. Fittipaldi against Unser. And with that familiar Unser overtaking ploy low on the inside, he took the lead from Fittipaldi. The Penskes undoubtedly in a class of their own.
You ride back now with Nigel Mansell as we keep an eye on Michael Andretti and Raul Boesel line just ahead. There is Nigel as he tries to get around Michael. Whoa, he's going to take him close to the wall with that one.
Well, that was a close one there. Michael didn't see him for a while, kept moving out, and you could see Nigel was getting a little nervous.
Nigel still hammering round over the bumps of Milwaukee. He saw off Robbie Gordon for 4th place. For a while he ran 3rd when Paul Tracy pitted for tyres and fuel. But soon it was a Penske 1, 2, 3 again. Robbie Gordon lost 5th place to Michael Andretti. The pair evenly matched until Andretti stole a slight advantage. A good drive by Andretti in a car that wasn't handling properly. Difficulties though for everyone on the track as the rain started. On lap 180 the race was placed under caution and it was an anticlimactic finish. The checkered flags out as the rain came down. Alan Sir Jr. the winner, the Penskes achieving the first 1, 2, 3 in IndyCars for 14 years.
I think it was by about this time that we all realized that, you know, the step that we thought that we'd made over the winter with the new car and everything, we knew it wasn't enough. I mean, Penske was just running on a different part of the racetrack to everyone else. And if you look at Penske with the team to beat, you knew then that you weren't going to beat them. And so everybody sort of took a huge swallow, I think, at this time of the year and said, oh dear.
To the headquarters of the US motor industry in mid-June and the Detroit circuit on Belle Isle Park. Emerson Fittipaldi quickest in the first session of qualifying, but the fight back came on the Saturday. Nigel led teammate Mario Andretti around the 2.1 mile circuit and for the second successive year claimed the pole, shattering the lap record in the process. No wonder the Newman-Haas crew applauded the champion when he returned after clocking that sensational lap.
And I think this is what I brought to IndyCar racing was, you know, special qualities of a Formula One driver on the top of his game, that he can actually bring a car up to a level for one special lap. And if you look back at my qualifying performance this year and last year, there's been certain racetracks where I've out-qualified the same maker chassis by almost 2 seconds a lap. Well, for that one lap, I think I can honestly say that's the combination of the car, the engine and the driver that manages to do that. But can you then race it at that level? No way. So then come the race, reality sets in. And I'll never forget in Detroit, on the first lap I was in the lead, coming out of a tight right-hander, going down the short straight, as they call a short shoot, into another right-hander. I came off the corner and I was flat out, and then I saw this red and white car pull up alongside me and just go past. And I just said, I don't believe this. I was flat out, but he came around the corner, I would say 20% quicker than I did, and just got the jump on me down the short shoot straight, and that was it. I was history.
Nigel Mansell starting from the front with 3 Penskes on his tail. Lap 2, Alan Sir Jr. goes past to take first place, demonstrating the power available from the Ilmore engine. Next to appear in Mansell's mirrors, Paul Tracy running third. Then he was through to take second place. For a while, the Lola stayed with the Penske, but couldn't grab the place back. A pit stop almost brought disaster for Newman-Haas. Mansell was waved clear to pull out and head for the pit exit, the intention to be on the track before Fittipaldi. But Jacques Villeneuve was approaching to pull into the Forsyth Green pit immediately ahead. Thanks to quick reactions, the danger was narrowly avoided. But a heart-stopping moment, followed immediately by another, as Emerson Fittipaldi almost became involved with Nigel's desperate avoiding action.
Whoa! He got tagged. Alan Sir Jr. tagged from behind. Paul Tracy was the culprit, and that sent him off into the barrier.
The end of Alan Sir Jr.'s sequence of wins, and the end of Nigel Mansell's hopes of points in Detroit when he hit the tyre barrier after tangling with Emerson Fittipaldi. Nigel showing some nifty footwork as he made for the marshal's post.
Now that's hard to do. I couldn't even do that.
That's awesome. He's an athlete and a half.
That's difficult.
So Nigel Mansell climbs out of his car and across the tires.
Tiptoe through the tyres. The incident that led to Nigel ending up in the barriers occurred when Emerson Fittipaldi had to brake urgently to avoid a slower car. Mansell, immediately behind, couldn't avoid him and came off worse. He slid across the track and into the tyres with a hefty bump. Moments later, he was bringing the car back in for attention to nose and front wing in the pits. The mishaps that delayed Alan Sir Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi gave Paul Tracy a clear run to the checkered flag. Nigel Mansell's race ended on lap 65, a throttle problem forcing him into retirement, a disappointing end to an event that had started so promisingly. Paul Tracy first, Emerson Fittipaldi second, and nobody else on the same lap.
And there it is, the twin checkered flags come out, and Paul Tracy takes the win. Today will be the first time that Penske cars have won 5 races in a row.
Now, behind the scenes of all this, Nigel, moves were afoot to bring you back into Formula One. How flattering was it when the big guns came calling for you?
I don't know so much that it was flattering, it's just that people don't appreciate that Formula One was my whole life for 13, 14 years. You know, that doesn't disappear overnight just because you leave it and go to another series. And as Bernie Ecclestone said when he was asked about how Nigel is and when did you speak to him last and did you ask him such and such, and Bernie said, well, look, I speak to Nigel virtually every other week or every week. And he said, what particular question do you want me to ask him, you know? I've got a very good relationship with the powers of Formula One, even when I left in 1992. But when you've got the powers of B behind you or supportive or would like you back in their series, it's always extremely helpful.
Round 7 of the 16-race series took the IndyCars to Portland, Oregon in the northwest of the USA, renowned as the City of Roses. The Portland circuit's in a spectacular setting, with the backdrop the impressive Mount Hood. The attention centred on the Penskes naturally and on the championship leader Alan Sir Jr. in particular. Little Al enjoying a return to prominence after a couple of years where he'd been eclipsed by the likes of Paul Tracy and Nigel Mansell. Midway through the final qualifying session, Alan Sir Jr. was quickest. Nigel had taken pole at Portland in 1993. He was determined to do so again. He had one opportunity to set the fastest time when the track temperature was right and the tyres in proper condition.
Okay, Nigel, we have 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
Here comes Nigel Mansell. One more time around. Let's see if he can do it.
It was a brilliant lap around the 1.95-mile road course. Co-owner Paul Newman anxiously checked progress on the computer. Others used the time-honoured method.
P1, Nigel, P1.
But Alan Jr. was out again.
Alan just nipped us at a 60.07. You're a 60.17.
Good job, everybody. We shouldn't be upset because we did a fantastic lap.
Roger, Nigel. Great job on your part. That was fantastic.
Now in Portland, you had the pole right up to the very last minute when Al Jr. pipped you. And the next Lola was Robbie Gordon way back in 7th place. How much were you having to hustle that car that day?
Oh, incredibly so. And again, it just showed, we had a number of poles then, starting in Portland, that we were there for the last minute. And I think at that particular circuit, I think little Al got me in the last 30 seconds. But it was just indicative how the year was going to go from there on in.
From the rolling start, Alan Jr. first, Nigel Mansell second, Fittipaldi and Tracy with the chasing to do, and another 28 following, including Michael Andretti starting from 9th.
Look at this! Oh, Michael Hansen!
For 27 laps, Mansell drove a storming race, holding on to second place, but Emerson Fittipaldi's pursuit was relentless and he was able to shoot past from third. Tracy's Penske also running well, and he went by to take third place. Alan Jr. up front, 10 seconds ahead of the field with a clear track ahead. But in front of Mansell, a collision between Brian Herter and Scott Goodyear. It turned into another Penske victory show. Unser first, Fittipaldi second, Tracy third. Alan Jr.'s 4th win of the season for his new team. And a delighted Roger Penske and Al's wife Shelley celebrated the victory. A late pit stop delayed Nigel, and he was left to defend 4th place from Robbie Gordon. Back markers involved, Gordon took 4th by a whisker at the checkered flag. One of his best races, he said afterwards, especially because he went 3rd in the championship. A rapid departure from Portland for Nigel Mansell. He'd an important transatlantic date. The VIP arrives at Brands Hatch.
Coming back to Formula One, Nigel.
Well, here today.
As the fans poured into the circuit to see their heroes return, Nigel climbed into the cockpit of a Williams Renault again.
I can say that's probably one of the happiest times of 1994. You know, I thought very naively that I was going to have a quiet test, but I didn't dream for 1 minute that there would be upwards of 15,000 people turn up on a weekday to see us test privately at Brands Hatch. And the atmosphere, the setting, the weather, all the things you can't control was all splendid. It was magnificent. And the team and the fact that we drove the car as competitively as we did, it was one great, successful, fabulous day from start to finish.
In fact, your time was comparable with the fastest active time from the year before.
Sure.
But obviously in a car devoid of all that technology, how difficult was it to step into that pitch-sensitive Formula One car after the Lola you've been driving?
Very difficult. You've got to be honest and say the truth, and it's very difficult. And we had a few sort of little misdemeanors, which were wake-up calls, as I call them. It made me realise that, you know, all my instincts that I remembered, I've got to just throw out the window. I've got to develop new ones very quickly. Because when the car stepped out on me, I thought, that's not a problem. But it was a problem. And, you know, then the whole day became a challenge to try and go quicker and quicker and quicker. And from the start of the day to the finish of the day, we found 3 seconds a lap. And in terms of speed on a short track like that, that's a lot of time.
How much did you then enjoy your weekend in France, your guest appearance?
That was a fabulous weekend. Very, very fond memories. Very sad finish. But looking at the overall thing, I'll give myself a 9 out of 10 for the whole weekend. To go there and be on the front row of the grid and virtually on pole position for the last couple of minutes, phenomenal. To make Damon work harder than he's ever worked, as such, to try and get pole and see his a desperate bid out of the last corner, because I watched it over the curb and all the rest of it, and to gain just that split second more, I said to myself afterwards, well, I should have done that.
Back to the States after the French weekend and the halfway point of the Indy Series at Cleveland. Back to a familiar story. Paul Tracy for Penske on the front row. Quick, but not quite as quick as teammate Al Unser Jr., still enjoying vintage form in a fine season. Unser on pole, Tracy second, Fittipaldi third, and Nigel Mansell fourth on the grid, pondering just what to do about those red and whites.
In Cleveland, you and Emma had another great scrap, rather again evocative of last year. Would you say that was perhaps your best run of the year?
It probably was. I mean, I drove an incredible, strong race there. We found something with the car whereby I could do certain things with it. And, you know, we had a very exciting tussle with the Penskes.
We watch for the green. Green is out, though. Seemed that Al Unser Jr. got a bit of a start. Now let's take a look at him. Spread out wide. Well, maybe they learned a little bit of a lesson from last year. Nope, not everybody. Michael in trouble. Michael wasn't here last year. So two cars together on the start. Scott Goodyear is one of them. Michael Andretti is the other. And Mansell has made his move and dropped into third place.
Ahead of Mansell, Paul Tracy and Al Unser Jr. Nigel looking to pressure Tracy into a mistake, hoping to trap him behind a back marker and steal the advantage when Tracy hesitated. Success for Plan A. Al Unser Jr. first, Nigel second. Unser showing no inclination to relax the pace, preserve the car and settle for position and points in his championship quest. When Tracy dropped back, Fittipaldi came through to challenge Mansell for second. Memories of '93.
On board with Nigel, but he may have more problems than we think. He brushed the wall earlier. This was a lap earlier. Keep an eye on number one there.
Oh, look at that. That's
just
fire.
Rear tire only, though.
That was fire, was a magnesium. The wheels are made out of magnesium.
Nigel pitted one lap before Emerson.
They dropped the jacks and Emerson is away in 14.7 seconds. And he almost has a problem going out of pit road as he found traffic overcoming him on driver's right.
That was Gugelmin who came out along with Fittipaldi, and of course Al Unser Jr. will move back into the lead of the race, and Nigel Mansell and Fittipaldi will come out side by side in a battle for position.
There's Nigel right in front of, Emerson right in front of Nigel now, and maybe this is Nigel's best moment to get by him right there under braking.
Now, they didn't see that coming. Nigel was not expecting that. That was a total surprise to him. But, boy, did he react at the next turn.
Isn't it amazing, given the number of variables in a pit stop, pulling in, getting the car stopped, having it all happen to your car, and then getting back out, that they resume exactly the way they left off?
Look at they come out now. Of course, Nigel is on a little warmer tire, so it's sticking a little bit better. First, he gets past, and then he comes right back and takes over the position.
And you notice how quickly Emo moved over into an aggressive position where Nigel had to go around him.
Emo did a good job there.
They both did.
So Nigel Mansell in a battle with Fittipaldi is back into second place. The leader is Al Unser Jr., and we are having a great time in Cleveland. Whoa!
Emerson
locked him up totally. There's more than one problem there, Jackaroot.
Well, Paul, believe it or not, Paul Tracy, his teammate, radioed into the crew to let them know that the rear end of the car was literally on fire.
Emerson pulled out of the cockpit and away from the fire that threatened to destroy the car.
A right, and then a left, and then a checkered flag lies in wait on the runways of the Burke Lakefront Airport. And Al Unser Jr. has taken his 5th win of the year. and stretches his points lead.
Alan Jr. with the championship in his grasp. Nigel second at Cleveland and third overall. Across the border for round 9 to Tracy Territory, Toronto. Nigel's race there last year wasn't successful. He was keen to make up for that in qualifying. The car ran well, quickest of all in the first session.
P1, 58.29.
But in the second session of qualifying, Robbie Gordon in the Walker Lola came through to take pole position by 1/10 of a second. With Nigel second, it was the first all-Lola front row of the season.
Yeah, we fought off the Penske's and we were swapping pole position for a period of time, and then I pushed a little too hard going into the final turn coming into the straight, and I just caught the tyre barrier on the left-hand side and I had the wheel twisted out my arm and then straight into the tyres.
Practice was interrupted by a huge crash involving Brian Herter in the AJ Foyt Lola. Herter taken to hospital with a broken right thigh and pelvis.
Brian is a very sincere professional race car driver. He's shown a great turn of speed in the IndyCar in his first few outings. It has to be said that he was a little bit unlucky that at most other circuits, what happened to him at Toronto, he would have just spun off and hit the guardrail and bounced back. But what happened in Toronto, he got sideways and hit a concrete block weighing several ton, and it squashed the car and broke his pelvis, broke his leg. And I'm very pleased to say I spoke to him only at the last race, and he's making a very, very good recovery.
Just after the start, Nigel Mansell was radioed from the pits with surprise news.
Al Jr. is out of the race. He's getting out of the car, Nigel.
Unser's engine failure, encouragement for the rest. A rare Penske case of unreliability. Leader Robbie Gordon still in charge until he suffered a repeat tyre blowout. Virtually a carbon copy of an incident in Saturday's qualifying. Nigel Mansell was poised to take advantage. Through into first place at last, a chance to command a race. Nigel Mansell and Michael Andretti locked together first and second till the Lola's handling went off and Andretti was suddenly looking for a way past. Nigel's problem apparent, a puncture in the right rear tyre. Andretti swept past and into the lead. Mansell headed as quickly as possible to the pits, but he lost almost a whole lap on the field because of the puncture. The picture telling the story to the pit crew. So Michael Andretti in the Reynard profited and looked set for his second win of the season, determined to put daylight between himself and the rest of the field. Despite a quick pit stop, Nigel was now way down the field and lapping well off the pace. Fittipaldi led the Penske challenge to Andretti. The ease with which he lapped Nigel Mansell indicative of the handling problems on the Lola. Crew chief Jim McGee gave Nigel the option.
If you think there's a problem with the car, we should park it, but if you don't, we'll keep going. We're gonna park it.
So Nigel's race was over. But one Lola making unexpected ground was the Honda-powered Bobby Rahal, who surged past Fittipaldi to take second. But with Michael Andretti achieving his second win of the season, it was Reynard, Lola and Penske on the podium. Michigan hosts the other 500-miler in the IndyCar Series, a magnificent win there for Nigel in 1993, first task in 94 to capture pole position. No mean feat given the opposition, but the early indications were that Nigel would be the man to beat. He produced a marvellous lap in practice, 2:35.639 miles an hour, a world record for a closed circuit.
Now, Michigan must have been one of the high points of the season. You were on pole position, and in practice you had a time, let's just savour these numbers, 235.639 miles an hour, the fastest ever lap of a racetrack. A few thoughts
Yeah,
about that.
we've got the most perfect computer printout where we were flat out in 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you know, to have a computer printout which shows that you didn't come off the throttle for 2 laps, and we did the most perfect lap that you could do, which is the fastest lap ever in the history. It's quite phenomenal, but stupid too. I mean, one has to say that you've got to be brainless. And that's why, you know, I touch on again, I'm very pleased. I have no regrets that I probably won't be going back there, because that's too quick.
We're underway. The Marlboro 500 is underway as Nigel Mansell holds his position at the front. Boiselle challenges to the high side. They're 3 abreast through the first and second turn. Look at Michael. He sweeps around Raoul Boiselle, ducks into second place. Down the backstretch, Michael chases Nigel. Raoul Boiselle closes in. First, second, and third run together. Mario Andretti slides into 4th place. Nigel Mansell is the leader. He's now pulled out 5.5 seconds over second place Michael Andretti and begins to handle up some traffic as he comes alongside Scott Sharp. So Nigel Mansell looking very much like last year, where he led 222 laps.
We had a fabulous start to the race. We took the race by the scruff of its neck in the first 20 laps, and then bingo, something else hits you.
I tell you, that's 3 scares. Going into 1, you have to brake real hard to get the thrust to come back. I can't get my foot round it. Is there anything you can do?
There's a butterfly in the plenum chamber of the engine, that is, and the mechanism broke, and so the throttle decided to stick wide open going into turn 1, and it just felt like someone hit me up the back when I came off the throttle because it was still flat out. And I had a few exciting moments over the next 10 laps trying to fix it. We made 2 or 3 extra pit stops trying to fix it. And unfortunately, it was actually inside the engine that the problem was. And we just couldn't drive it. So that was it. End of story.
Nigel not the only driver in trouble. A catalogue of problems for the lead runners. Robbie Gordon punctured at top speed, but somehow managed to keep away from the wall. Adrian Fernandez came out of a terrifying situation unharmed. Signalled out of the pits before refuelling was complete, methanol was sprayed everywhere. It burns with an invisible flame. Water's the most effective liquid to douse the flames, and with help from the Newman-Haas team, there was plenty around. Michael Andretti, leading on lap 67, hit trouble lapping Paul Tracy and hammered the wall. The end of his race. 10 laps later, virtually an instant replay, Jacques Villeneuve crashed out of second place. Robbie Gordon sliding on his own oil after his engine blew and lucky to avoid clattering into the pit wall. Emerson Fittipaldi out after 209 laps with a blown engine. Raoul Boiselle having diced hard with Alain Jr. for the lead, seemingly more concerned that his race was over than for his own safety. Alain Jr., another engine failure, the first time this year that all 3 Penskes failed to finish.
And Scott Goodyear will have chills up and down his spine. He could never have imagined, as Leslie watches, that this type of success could have fallen his way today.
Under 30 seconds away from his second win, and a win at the Marlboro 500. His name on the Dana Trophy already once. Will it go again? Boy, it sure looks that way. The man who perseveres wins. A final couple of bottomings. 3rd turn, 4th turn. Scott Goodyear sees the twin checkered flags from Jim Swintal, and the Budweiser car with Scott Goodyear has taken the win in the Marlboro 500. He'll be followed to the line by Arie Luyendyk and Dominic Dobson.
Mid-August, Mid-Ohio, round 11 on the 2.25 mile road circuit where a good grid position is vital for a successful race.
Tell us about your weekend in Mid-Ohio then, Nigel.
Well, I mean, it's a great racetrack, very challenging, very demanding, but of course it's a track where the Penskes showed the dominance again. And when you think on a racetrack like that they could lap the field, it just points out that they're in a class of their own.
Qualifying yesterday was all but rained out. Qualifying times were taken from the run on Friday, and as a result, Al Unser Jr. took the pole, but as you can see, Paul Tracy snatched the pole away from him as they come to the first complete lap of competition. Mansell in the best qualified Lola being challenged now by two Renards. Remember, in terms of winning two, that Michael Andretti scored back-to-back wins here in 1990 and 91.
And if you look back beyond this dueling trio here, Robbie Gordon is going to start to get in the picture. He's overcome problems he had earlier in the race, and we're going to start to see him join them.
Just good racing. Michael Andretti continues to thrash at the back of Mauricio Gugelmin's car.
Whoa,
look alongside Gugelmin. Here comes Robbie Gordon.
Well, we just got through saying Robbie Gordon's going to be up there in a few minutes. And by golly, he was.
Well, here's a key area now for all of them as they come slamming down the long back straight. Michael looks to the inside, tries to outbreak Gugelmin as they go into the corner. Gugelmin holds him off. He's not going to have any of it. Boy, that's some great driving on both drivers' part. Look at Nigel now as he charges on Mauricio Gugelmin. They're battling side by side down that long back straight. Bobby Rahal is right there too. The leader's closing on 7th place, Bobby Rahal, and then they're lined up in front of him, 4th through 7th. Look at that line as they head through the first turn at the end of the pit straight now.
And you notice Little Al's really putting the pressure on. Remember, he's trying to box Tracy in. Any place that Tracy goes, he wants to box
Here comes Gordon again, right alongside Gugelmin, forces Gugelmin offline into the outside, and Tracy and Little Al come through as well. Now Little Al sets up to make a move on Paul Tracy. He's tucked in right behind. He goes to the inside this time. Now Little Al sweeps to the outside on the corner, and Paul Tracy takes the inside line.
The next turn is to the left, so if you can get to the left of your adversary, you can get him on the next bend.
Now this is sometimes, remember, what makes passing easy.
Gordon makes the move on Nigel Mansell now. They come off the corner side by side. And Robbie Gordon has the line and the position there. But here is Paul Tracy as he screams down behind Nigel Mansell, who now runs in 4th place.
It's awesome. Just think, he's absolutely lapping Mansell. This is something we hardly ever see.
Then Tracy passed Robbie Gordon, who'd slid wide. An illegal manoeuvre. The yellows were out because of the stranded Teo Fabi's Reynard. Harshly, Tracy was awarded a stop-go penalty, and Al Unser Jr. was now safe from attack. Meanwhile, Nigel held off Raul Boesel for 7th, despite the handling on his Lola steadily deteriorating.
And for the checkered flag, as Al Unser Jr. scores his 6th win of the season and the 25th win of his career.
And Penske were back to form with yet another 1-2-3 finish. Back to an oval, and time running out for anyone to tackle the Penskes. Nigel's qualifying form was good. 21.909 gave him 2nd position on the grid behind Fittipaldi, who'd set a new track record, 21.753. But just when 2nd place seemed secure for Nigel, Raul Boesel was controversially allowed a 3rd run and just pipped him by 100th of a second. You have to see the funny side.
You have enough practice? If you're going to do that, at least get pole.
Where are you?
Behind you. I've just learned a new rule. Why didn't we do that?
Only your 2nd year here.
Immediately from the green, chaos in the pack. Robbie Gordon spinning to a halt. Jacques Villeneuve and Arie Luyendyk out in the first few hundred yards. Start number 2, hoping for better this time. Fittipaldi, Boesel, Mansell and Tracy the leading 4, but again another midfield incident brought out the yellow flags. Mike Groff and Scott Sharp, the drivers involved in a huge shunt. Amazingly and fortunately, nobody hurt, even though Sharp's car flipped right over and trapped the driver in the cockpit.
quite a start. Mike just got loose and spun, and then I spun. Next thing I know, I sort of felt myself getting on top of him, and from there I was just a pretty wild ride. So it wasn't too bad.
Not too bad. To these drivers, it seems the walk back to the pits is the toughest part of a crash like that. Green for the third time, and Nigel Mansell attacking from the restart.
Here comes Nigel on the charge with Fittipaldi. So the leader of the race is now moving steadily backward as Mansell gets him.
Nigel starting well and running on the pace. Real optimism for a finish high in the order.
And Allenser Jr. grabs the lead away from Tracy. Mansell closing in. Remember these players a year ago? Tracy and Mansell, who moves into second place.
Mansell second, in touch with the leader Allenser Jr., but problems came from an unlikely source. His teammate Mario Andretti in fourth place and about to be lapped. At these speeds, the slightest touch spells trouble.
When we saw it, Mario's okay. Thank goodness he's okay. I just couldn't believe he tried to outbrake me.
A very shaken Mario afterwards, and the incident ruined Nigel's chance of a decent finish.
Something's wrong with the car. That's the speed limit. We'll change tires and fuel, and then we'll take a look at the suspension. Rod ends and everything look good on the front, and steering arms are straight.
Back on the circuit, the car was in no state for competitive racing. That meant a return to the pits.
A massive oversteer, and it feels as though it's had a track over.
Retirement, the only option, and the way was left clear for the Penske trio to dispute first place. Emerson Fittipaldi leading till with 5 laps to go he needed a late pit stop. So another victory for Allenser Jr., his 7th in 12 races and the 4th Penske 1-2-3 of the season.
Do you think, in retrospect, that the Penskes were more beatable than the record books will show?
Not really. I think they were very dominant from the word go. We had some good settings on some circuits which made us more competitive with them, but we never dominated them like they dominated us. So when they got their cars working good, they could be so much faster. But there were some racetracks where we seemed to be able to compete, and Loudon was a very good example, but unfortunately my teammate either didn't see me coming up on the inside or just thought we could both get around the corner, which obviously wasn't the fact.
The third visit of the season now to the States and the second to Canada. Robbie Gordon demonstrated again that he was starting to fulfill some of his potential with his second pole position of the season, setting the fastest time in qualifying on Friday that proved unbeatable a day later. Paul Tracy came to grief in Saturday's qualifying, unhurt but with a badly bent car, and had to hitch a lift back with Nigel, who'd qualified second, the first time the Penskes needed any help. Allenser Jr. missed Friday's qualifying, suffering from food poisoning. He's probably not used to the water abroad yet, but on Saturday he was back, although not in top form. The Penskes shut out of rows 1 and 2.
Well, now the pace picks up. There's the green. Michael Andretti drops into third place, chasing Mansell. Scott Goodyear is fourth. Allenser Jr. comes up to challenge on the inside of Fabi, and so does Emerson Fittipaldi. The Penske car is moving up very quickly here.
Watch the traffic jam here, under braking for this first gear hairpin on this first lap. Remember, tires are not warm enough yet.
A good jump by both Fittipaldi and Allenser Jr. on the start. First, second, and third remain the same, then Goodyear, then Fabi. Stefan Johansson in that backup car doing very well.
Fittipaldi very slow, exiting that chicane. Bozell, look how far back he is.
Leader of the race, Robbie Gordon. With Mansell now even closer in pursuit. He dropped into the 2-second range behind Gordon, but then now he's closed into 1.1 seconds, so he's definitely in a closing posture on Robbie Gordon.
One of 7 full-course yellows caused by Theo Fabi's Hall Reynard stranded against the tyre chicane, and the field closed up behind the pace car.
All right, let's take a look at it. Tracy comes to the inside.
Clean pass, braking zone, Fabi lets him through.
Now here's where the accident occurred.
Well, well, well. Fabi was not prepared to lie down and give the position to Paul Tracy.
Mansell in pursuit of Robbie Gordon, who has led right from the start, 36 laps into the record book. And Robbie Gordon is on the pit road.
You know what happened?
He missed the corner.
He overshot turn 10.
Of course, what all of this does is brings Mansell into the lead. But look there, the 31 car. Second place, Al Unser Jr. Nigel Mansell, the leader, is in, and Gary Gerald waits.
Along with the crew, here he is, perfectly gliding to the mark. Second at Long Beach, second at Cleveland, not a winner this year. Only 3 remaining IndyCar races in his career. He wants desperately to get to the victory podium today. Little problem getting the fuel line out, but they get it in just under 12 seconds. A nice stop for the Newman-Haas team, and Nigel Mansell's back on course.
But Adrian Fernandez picked up the lead and then is apparently out of fuel, would be my guess.
And the resulting yellow hampered Nigel, who just pitted because the rest went in under caution, and Alonso Jr. completed his drive from 8th to 1st.
Well, we've had several changes in the past few seconds. Teo Fabi takes a spin, but perhaps more important, we had Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti get together. We're going to go full course yellow. 95 laps are complete, 7 laps to the conclusion of this race. Here is what originally happened with Paul Tracy and Michael Andretti.
Nigel Mansell did get caught up in that melee, and he has moved all the way back to 7th. Al Jr., who won here last year, won the inaugural event here back in 1990. So he knows what it's all about, but that's how close Robbie Gordon has come to winning an IndyCar race. He's, what, 2.5 or 3 seconds behind.
Only 2 names have ever appeared in the winner's point here in Vancouver. Al Unser Jr. has done it again. The other name would have been Michael. Robbie Gordon finishes in 2nd. And Nigel Mansell gets together with Fittipaldi. And that's going to devastate a 4th and 5th place finish and bring Scott Goodyear forward into 4th.
Here it is here. This is braking for turn 10. Long way behind is Mansell. Oh, Emerson tries to block him. Oh, ho, ho. Emerson turned in early to try and block Mansell. Mansell was already committed and had nowhere to go, and smacks the inside concrete and Emerson at the same time.
And Mansell had a right to be angry about it.
Vancouver, for one, was probably the biggest disappointment of a race I've had, because the Newman-Haas team did a superb job all weekend. Our car was really good there. We got it really, as I say over here, hooked up. And, you know, one of the restarts had little Al behind me, and I left him. There was no problem. And then to lose the race, and then ultimately then have the coming together with Emerson on the last lap on the last corner, it was just a great shame.
After his 8th win of the season, Al Unser Jr. was virtually certain of his 2nd championship. Only Fittipaldi could catch him, but only in the opinion of the most optimistic mathematician.
Now at Elkhart, again, you had a very good handling car and a great tussle with Robbie Gordon, but then down on power. What happened there?
No, the problem we had there is that the last 15-20 minutes of qualifying, the engine blew. So we couldn't qualify. So we dropped to 3rd on the grid. Then in the race, with great regret, our Ford power plant got a misfire on the 2nd lap.
Wisconsin in September. The young Lions, Tracy and Villeneuve, away from the front row. Mansell and Unser starting from row 2. Tremendous tussle right from the green flag. Tracy ahead of Villeneuve, then Villeneuve ahead. Villeneuve quickest down the straights. Tracy making up the difference in the corners. The field thinned out early on, but the top contenders stayed in the race. So it was Villeneuve against the Penske's. The 3 red and whites ganged up on the young rookie, but he was more than a match for them. Villeneuve, equal of anyone coming of age at Road America. Nigel Mansell pit stop, the engine down on power and the car unlikely to feature in the final shake-up. Tracy into the pits with engine trouble with only 6 laps to go. So Villeneuve against the champion-elect Alain Jr. Junior determined to clinch the title in style, Villeneuve resisting on the sprint to the checkered flag. A remarkable first win in sight. The checkered flags flew for Jacques Villeneuve, an illustrious name back at the pinnacle of world motorsport, and for the new champion Alain Jr. The Forsyth Green Reynard was marginal on fuel for the slowing down lap. The celebrations were cranked up for Alain Jr.'s second IndyCar title, his first with Penske. Mission accomplished.
You know, for myself to actually first year on the team and all that kind of stuff, and who my teammates were, you know, for me to actually do it was a little bit far-fetched, you know, and so, but, you know, with a little bit of luck on my side and all of us working together, we were able to do it.
Paul and Emo missed out on this victory parade, replaced by Shelley and Roger.
He's just been a common thread that's worked well through the whole organization with Paul, with certainly with Emerson, and with all the team members. He's just been a great champion. He will be a great champion. I'm sure glad he's on our team.
I think the fact that he ran a 3rd car for an American this year showed his intent. And I wouldn't say that Little Al was overly favoured over Emerson and Paul Tracy, because they've all won races this year. But I think the inference was that, you know, I need an American in the team. Little Al should be that driver, and he should be able to get the job done. And I have to say, my hat's taken off to both of them, because they're both together have done an absolutely superb job.
Nazareth in Pennsylvania staged the penultimate round of the IndyCar Championship. But it was arrivederci Mario, this to be his last race at Nazareth, where he's lived for 39 years. Nigel has fond memories of Nazareth too. He clinched the title here last year and was in good form in qualifying on the 1 mile oval. Unlike other ovals in the IndyCar series, Nazareth has only 3 turns instead of the regular 4, and it's probably the trickiest to drive of them all. But Nigel mastered it. He beat the previous lap record by 0.3 of a second. Alain Jr. failed in qualifying, but Paul Tracy and Emerson Fittipaldi both learnt from his mistakes. Tracy 7/10 quicker than Mansell, Fittipaldi 0.08 faster than Tracy. Penske's 1 and 2 on the grid, Nigel 3rd. Middle of race weekend at Nazareth, the drivers take time out for a fun event, the 8th annual Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix. Most of the drivers began their racing careers in karts, but usually with a little more power than these. The trip back to their roots not always fully appreciated. Sometimes it's quicker to carry it. It's a relay race. IndyCar personnel teamed with the enemy, the media. Hostilities suspended, each driver does 2 laps and then hands over to his teammate. Staged on the pit lane and front straight, it's a chance for the press to prove a point to the drivers. They can do it and not just write about it. Drivers who lapped at 185 miles an hour the day before probably noticed the drop in speed. Oh, and the winner, Alain Jr., the man with the Midas touch, even in karts. In the race proper, the Penskes blasted away from the start, Nigel Mansell in pursuit. Opening laps of any race are always fraught. The 1 mile oval cluttered with traffic, each driver trying to force his way through the field. Like racing around Piccadilly Circus at 180 miles an hour. The Penskes out in front, the rest jockeying for minor positions. Then, problems for Nigel.
He's got 2 holes left. 2 holes left on the front wing. It's that bad.
pit stop caused a frustrating delay. A repeat victory on the circuit where he secured the title in '93 looking highly unlikely. Mario Andretti also suffering with a poorly handling car, and it resulted in him colliding with the wall. A nasty accident that could have had terrible results. Unthinkable for Mario to be injured in his last race at Nazareth. Fortunately, he was unhurt, and only Eddie Cheever caught up in the aftermath.
Okay, Mario's walking from the car, is okay. The car's terrible over. His car was oversteering like mine.
Meanwhile, the Penskes were tearing round the oval, lapping everyone in sight. Paul Tracy ahead of Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi. But the problems got worse for Nigel Mansell.
Jim, it's not right. There's something wrong, somewhere. Mario's car is the same.
Retirement after 97 laps, the only option. A frustrating and disappointing race for Nigel and Newman-Haas at Nazareth. Still, the Penskes thundered on, although one of the challengers crashed out. A mistake by Adrian Fernandez in the Reynard as he tried to pass Jacques Villeneuve, and Fernandez slammed the wall. Again, he was unhurt, and the rest of the field unaffected. Lap 200, Paul Tracy in charge on course for his second win of the season and his first ever on an oval. Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi were following second and third, so yet another 1-2-3 finish for Penske for the fifth time this season.
Engineers tell us that it's very difficult to get an Indy car into that sweet spot on an oval. Is this true?
Well, I mean, I'm very pleased to tell you that on all the oval races I've driven on, we've been close to that sweet spot. And I've never realised with the races I saw last year with certain people, Danny Sullivan, Bobby Rahal, and a number of Al Unser Jr. especially, actually park the cars in the race because they're too dangerous to drive. And I thought, well, how can that be? How can the cars be so off cue that you can't drive them? Unfortunately, as I said, I never experienced it. This year in 1994, I experienced it, and it's dreadful.
The final round of the season that began 7 months before on the other side of the Pacific. The last IndyCar race for two great champions. After 31 years and 52 wins, Mario Andretti's name has become synonymous with the sport. Nigel Mansell's been in IndyCars for only 2 years, but what an impression and what a difference he made to the profile of the series. Laguna Seca attracted some of the beautiful people, and some not so beautiful. Tracy first, Villeneuve second, Mansell third as they rolled away.
There's the green flag. They climb the hill, and we're underway for the final run of the season. Paul Tracy leads the field into the first corner. Villeneuve is second. There's a battle for third.
And did you see what Robbie Gordon tried to do to outside Junior, and he makes the pass, puts him off the racetrack?
More than tried to do, he got it done. Al Unser Jr. comes off the course. Emerson Fittipaldi smoking the brakes. Michael Andretti spins. Cars off the course everywhere, and Michael Andretti is hit. Michael Andretti is hit. What started as a very simple spin became very complex, and the start of all of this, Al Unser Jr. is back into the action. And watch from Gordon's car.
Side by side with Junior. Oh, they hit. That's it right there. Touch front wheels. You saw Al Jr. steering suddenly turn left. Then he's on the dirt out of control. And the second accident would actually happen independently of Al Jr.
But the question I have, Derek, is who tried to push who?
Oh, that's a case of two cars trying to go into one small space. Look at Mansell ducks in behind as Al Jr. mows down one of the marker signs on the outside. Now look at Michael. Here's Michael. Loses it under acceleration, and there's Emerson jumps on the brakes to try and miss him. An independent accident separate from what we saw happen to Al Jr. and Rahal.
Michael Andretti out on the first lap, so Paul Tracy assured of third place in the championship. Stefan Johansson in the pits as one of the front runners, Adrian Fernandez, arrives. Johansson's clumsy exit disturbs the mechanic working on Fernandez's right rear. Angry at the intrusion, he dumps a tyre in Johansson's path. And the result of this unprofessional scene? A stop-go penalty for both drivers.
Nigel Mansell climbing the hill now, chasing Théo Fabi and Jacques Villeneuve as Théo closing in now.
2 Reynards, so we have a Penske leading. First and second and third did not pit yet. Then we have 2 Reynards, and then we have the Lola. So the Lola that has struggled so many times this year will lead this race when these top 3 are forced to make a pit stop.
Al Unser Jr. continuing his pursuit of Nigel Mansell. Battle for second place as Paul Tracy now once again reassumes the lead. You saw him just cresting the top of the hill.
Down the famous corkscrew at Laguna Seca, but the duel was suspended when Nigel broke for the pits. A scheduled tyre and fuel stop, but it turned out to be anything but. Wheels changed, refueling completed, but a problem with the right rear despite the frantic efforts of the mechanics. The clock ticked on. Nigel in from second place and dropping down the order to 8th. Emerson Fittipaldi, who came in after Nigel, left the pits before after a problem-free stop. Because of the delay, Nigel's chance of a grandstand finale had gone.
Once again, Villeneuve moves way to the outside, tiptoes, then brings it back in, trying to dial inside of Emerson Fittipaldi. He's alongside Fittipaldi now. And he's past him. And Boesel now looking for room to get around Fittipaldi. There's Unser Jr. still second as he's able to ease away. But now Villeneuve very much in pursuit. Boesel attacking at Fittipaldi. Boesel comes to the inside. He's around. Boy, it looks like they touched. They didn't. They continue. Fabi now closing. Fittipaldi may be in trouble.
Road racing at its best. Villeneuve showing sheer bravery to pull that move off. Emerson gives him enough room. And then Boesel went for bust. Down the inside and just about stayed on the racetrack. And Emerson again gave him just enough room.
Transmission failure sidelined the new champion with 10 laps to go. Al Unser Jr. retired from second place.
9 laps to go in the season. Could Raoul Boesel be chasing Paul Tracy for his first IndyCar win and Dick Simon's first? He's been close before. Mario!
Trouble.
He slows down. It looks like the engine has let go and Mario's career might come to an end prematurely as he heads for the pits. 5 decades of racing. Mario Andretti's day is over. Paul Tracy coming down from the top of the hill makes his turn onto the pit straight, and for the 8th time in his IndyCar career, slowing down as he comes off the final corner, Paul Tracy takes the checkered flag from Nick Finoro. And Penske has broken the record. 12 wins by the Penske team in a single season, breaking the modern record.
Good job, guys. Okay, thanks, everybody. Fine, we've had a good time. This is character building for everybody. I wish you all the very, very best for next year, gentlemen. And thank you again for the 2 years. I'll see you in about a minute.
The last goodbyes from Nigel to the team that had supported him so consistently over the last 2 years in the States. No denying that the second season didn't match the first in the Glory Stakes, but the domination of the Penskes was so utterly complete. First, second and third in the championship, but the rise to prominence of Robbie Gordon and Jacques Villeneuve encourages hopes of a new name on the trophy in 1995. Nigel in 8th place in the title race behind Raoul Boesel, still waiting for that first IndyCar win. Théo Fabi, Bobby Rahal, Stefan Johansson, Scott Goodyear, they must all have hoped for better in a season that ultimately belonged to the Dream Team. A brilliant year for Al Unser Jr. 8 wins as he found vintage form to clinch his second championship. More consistent qualifying in the Penske next year, and he could beat the series record of 10 wins held by his father and AJ Foyt.
You know, as the season went on, you know, it just it was really great working with this whole race team. I mean, they're the ones that have done it for me, and so I really owe it to them. And for an owner to show that much confidence in me is, you know, none had done that prior. So it's great that he had that much confidence, and I thank him.
Now the elder statesman of IndyCar racing after the retirement of Mario Andretti at 47, Fittipaldi isn't getting any younger, but he's still competitive enough for Roger Penske to retain him ahead of Paul Tracy for 1995.
Well, I think for me it was a great season. I had some, like Indianapolis I crashed, Long Beach I broke the gearbox, and, New Hampshire I could win, I blitzed the front tire. I think I lost 3 good wins that I could have. But otherwise, it's been a fantastic season for myself, for Alonso Jr., a very special season for the whole Marlboro team, Penske.
5 victories in 1993, 3 in 1994. Paul Tracy tested the Formula One Benetton in October, but signed for Newman-Haas for 1995. His wins came too late, perhaps, to persuade Penske of his real worth.
Well, I think it's been pretty good. It's been up and down, but I wish I had have got the season started quicker and established myself earlier, but we're coming around, and from half season on we've been right there in the thick of everything.
Michael Andretti also joins Newman-Haas for 95. He's happier in IndyCar than in Formula One. Pulled off 2 wins for the Chip Ganassi team in 94 on his return, but not totally satisfied.
Frustrating, I think, is the best way to put it. Some places we unload, we do really well, and other places we're just totally out of ballpark, and we just can't figure it out. It's part of it's having a new race car, and I think anybody with the Reynard will tell you that it's been tough.
An encouraging year for Robbie Gordon. The Californian topped 100 points for the first time in his first season with Derek Walker, despite a few hairy moments.
Yeah, I think it's also a credit to the team, and everything. I'm feeling definitely a lot more comfortable in the car. Experience is everything here.
Jacques Villeneuve will be a great attraction in Formula One. Some teams approached him, but he'll stay with Barry Green's new outfit for 95, expecting to add to his first win at Road America.
We had a great chemistry, so I knew we could go well, but on the other hand, I wasn't used to races that long and pit stops, and there were a lot of quick guys that I knew that were going to be quick before the start of the season. So I wasn't really sure, but then it worked out really fine.
Mansell still hasn't won in IndyCars. Mechanical failures thwarted him in 94. For 95, he links up with Bobby Rahal, hoping for a change of luck.
Some frustrations. We came from a good year last year, a lot of points, and this year we have a lot of mechanical problems, like you say, Michigan, Portland, and a few others. So that keeps us up on the points and keep us from have our first win, our first victory. So it's encouraging one time to see the one side that can be fast and can be on the pace, and it's frustrating the other that to be so close and couldn't get it.
After 5 wins, 10 pole positions and some thrilling battles over the past 2 years, Nigel leaves the series to return to Formula One, taking leave of some tough opponents and good friends.
Well, I think Nigel is a shame he's going to Formula One, but I think Formula One needs Nigel more than IndyCar racing now. I mean, they need a charisma, they need a superstar like Nigel there, and I think it'll be great for Formula One, and he'll be very competitive in Formula One, no doubt.
Godspeed and a lot of luck over in F1, and show him that that he is a true champion.
I'm sorry to see him go. I think he's added a lot of flair and flavor to the series. I think he is, he had that storybook year. Maybe this year he's seeing how difficult it really can be. We wish him well, but certainly I wish he'd stay here, and because he is a tremendous driver and always one that you enjoy racing with.
He's been a great guy to race against. We've enjoyed racing with him. Maybe we'll go over there and race him someday.
He's been a great guy for the series. I think what he's brought IndyCar racing from the standpoint of notoriety internationally, we'll never know how much it means to our sport long term, but I understand that he's going back to Formula One racing. I'm sorry to see that. Someday maybe I'd hope to see him drive one of our cars.
Time to reflect.
Nigel, what is your fondest memory of your time in IndyCar racing?
My fondest memory, I think, really has got to be the first race down in Australia. Having gone to Australia for many times in Formula One and not winning there, to go for the first race, to put it on pole position and to win that race. And, you know, you can say that very quickly, it's not very meaningful. But then to add this, that, you know, it's the first time anybody's done that in the 84-year history or 85-year history now of the sport. But to sort of tread new ground and make history for the first time, I think that's what's so special.
Purely from the driving side, how will this experience, do you think, benefit you in the future?
I think immensely, really, because, I mean, I spent a number of years, 12, 13 years in Formula One. I've had a couple of years over here with different circuits, different techniques, different cars, certainly different people, and you put everything together in the melting pot and you can actually come up with something really special. What this has done for me the last 2 years, especially on the super speedway, on the ovals, you can set the car up in a specific way for a fast corner to benefit yourself from it. And I think maybe I can take a little bit of that back with me to Formula One and perhaps do perhaps an even better job than I did before.
A few thoughts, Nigel, on some of the people you've worked closely with over the last 2 years, starting, of course, with Paul Newman.
Well, what can you say? I mean, Paul Newman is a legend in his own time, and the charisma of the man, the professionalism of the man. And what I liked about Paul the most is how genuine he is, how down to earth, and thoroughly enjoyed working for him, with him. And you know, I'm pleased to say that we're very good friends.
On some occasions the car hasn't really been up to the task, and he's a real driver because he carries the car, and that's the real measure of it.
As you're a driver yourself, what do you see as his strengths?
Well, he has an extraordinary instinct in traffic, for one thing, and he's extremely accurate with his setup. I'm just sorry that this year the Penske car was really superior, but next year is next year. We're going to miss him.
On a personal level, will you miss him?
We're going to miss him a lot, yes.
And of course Carl Haas. I mean, again, what a track record Carl's had with winning many formulas over the years, forming his own team many years ago, trying his hand in Formula One. I mean, he's got a good pedigree and a very, very true to his word man. I get on with him very, very well.
This 94 has been a disappointing season. I think it probably looks different from the outside and from the inside because there's many races he could have won. And circumstances just prevented it for whatever reason. We're leaving on very good terms, and I wish him the very best.
What about Jim McGee, Nigel? What part did he play in your success?
Oh, Jim McGee played a very, very big part in the championship last year, and you know, our sanity this year, I think. G is an incredible professional. I think he's won something like over 50 races and 9 championships in his career. But perfect gentleman and thoroughbred professional.
Nigel's been around racing as long as I have. I've been around a little bit longer, but you have the years where things seem to fall in place, and there's other years when, you know, you just have all kinds of incidents, whether it's crashes or flat tires or people spinning in front of you or, you know, little foolish things. But, you know, throughout it all, I think Nigel has been totally a pleasure, absolutely professional, and probably the greatest driver I've ever worked with.
To send a message back to the folks in Formula One who perhaps wonder whether Nigel is as quick as he was when he first joined you. Is he?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been a little bit behind in the cars this year. We've had opportunities to win some races, and we just didn't capitalize on them. But, you know, all in all, I think that I thoroughly enjoyed this season as much as last. And, you know, it's just, I think if you ask the rest of the team, the crew, everybody involved with Nigel, there isn't anybody that can't say enough about how professional he's been and what a gentleman.
You've been very close to your mechanics, your boys, as you call them, and one of them, Norm, you've managed to be probably the only person who's ever taken money off you at a bet. How close did you get to those guys?
Very close. You know, the thing is, which is the biggest compliment I can give to them, is that you could transport most of them, if not all of them, straight across to a top Formula One team, and you wouldn't know the difference. You know, because that's how professional they are, the enthusiasm. They're thoroughbred racers through and through, and whatever it takes to get the job done, whatever hours they've got to put in, they do it. And I feel very, very comfortable indeed having all those guys on my car.
He is by far the most talented athlete I've ever worked with that's a racing driver. Everything he does is easy. Driving a racing car is easy. Picking up a golf club is easy. Picking up a soccer ball is easy. He played around with softball last year. There was some pre-hitting at Mid-Ohio last year when he hit the thing a mile. He's just incredibly fast. He's a very good tester, very good at relating exactly what's going on with a car, and he doesn't hang around. And you can always tell if you've made a change and it's better, you go faster. It's black and white with him. There's no gray. That probably maybe sums him up the best anyway. It's black and white.
He's world class, and he's just been great to work with.
The biggest personality amongst Nigel's mechanics, Norm, nicknamed after the character in Cheers. He's not quite as big now. His slimming campaign over the year cost Nigel a few bucks after a pre-season bet.
He wants to know.
My spaghetti sauce.
Did you not know?
Yeah, Nigel makes work fun, and making the money made it even twice as fun. I got nothing but good things to say about Nigel. Missing him is going to be an understatement.
Oh, he's really easy. Easiest guy I ever worked for. Very satisfying.
He's very intelligent. He can come in and tell you exactly what the car is doing. Some guys kind of round off the corners, so to speak, and don't give you a very accurate description. He can come in and tell you exactly what's going on.
He's a consummate gentleman. He's treated the guys here fantastic. I'm going to miss him a lot.
Sad to see him go, but wish him well back over in Formula One.
True sportsman and a gentleman. It's been a pleasure working with him for the past 2 years, and I wish him nothing but success in his future ventures.
I really would like to work with him again. I'm very sorry he's leaving, actually, because I think he's a fantastic guy.
You know, I've worked with the Foyts and the Andretti's and all of them, and he's the best I've ever been around, or I'm proud to even be associated with him.
On a professional level, I think that the whole sport is going to be missing him a whole lot. I think he took IndyCar to a different level. And on a personal note, I'm not just going to miss him. I think Roseanne, Chloe, Greg, and Leo. It was an experience I will not forget.
Jack, is there anything in particular you've learned from Nigel?
Yes, there is. How to make a decent cup of hot tea, and I even enjoy it myself now.
Seems to have an ability to do things that just by sheer will, even when the car may not be perfect, he just seems to be able to call up some sort of reserve and accomplish anything that he wants. So it's pretty amazing.
I'm very unhappy that he's leaving. I'd like to keep him for as many years as he'd like to drive.
He's a natural. He just attracts people, and his kindness and his understanding and everything that you look for in a professional. I mean, everything that means racing.
Michael Knight, PR for Newman-Haas, has never known 2 years like it.
You know, I think my favorite memory of all with Nigel was when he won the race in Australia in 1993, and when we were going to the media interview center after the race, it would have been normally a 3 or a 4 minute walk from where we were, and the crowds that surrounded Nigel and the golf cart trying to get over to the interview center, it made it about a 15-minute trip. Matter of fact, about a dozen soldiers from the Australian Army surrounded the golf cart to try to inch his way through this crowd of hundreds of people, and we were using the bullhorn and so forth to try to make room, and I was standing on the back of the golf cart watching this whole scene, and I said to myself, I think this is what it must have been like when Elvis was king.
And just time for a few final thoughts on the American adventure before the return to Formula One.
Very proud, very privileged to have had 2 exciting years here with Carl Haas and Paul Newman. Very sad, very happy.
So the future beckons in the familiar surroundings of Formula One with Williams for the last 3 races of the season.